Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to another War Thunder video with Koala. So lads, today we have an actual dev blog to talk about, and this one's going to be pretty exciting. Guys, I know a lot of you were tricked or partially tricked and quite angered by my April Fool's update 1.89 video. If you didn't see the funny side of that, I am sorry, but in my defense, never trust any news you hear on April 1st. Some of those commenters though are just too dumb to rescue, to be honest. I even had one genius tell me I was going to be banned from War Thunder for spreading false information. Hey, man, yeah. Most of you saw the funny side though, and really enjoyed that little prank, but today I get to make it up to you, because no jokes here, we have a Merkava coming to the game very soon, along with several other vehicles. Lads, this is not update 1.89. I know literally nothing about what is going to be added in update 1.89 or when it will drop. I have my suspicions that some of what I mentioned in that April Fool's video will come, but no hard knowledge, and certainly do not trust any of that April Fool's spoof video. Once again, I'm sorry if you didn't enjoy being hoodwinked like that, but no more jokes, we're serious from here on. What we have here is another one of those building slash crafting events that we've seen before for vehicles like the IS-7, and this time we have not 2, not 3, not even 4, but 6 vehicles coming, all craftable using parts you'll earn by completing tasks in game. Or at least that's how I assume this one will work. The IS-7 event though got a lot of negative rep, so perhaps this one will be a wee bit different, or hopefully at least a bit less grindy. Now, if you lads haven't seen, I will leave a link below to this dev blog where you can check out the original post. There wasn't a lot of information given, but thanks to all you lot on Reddit and the War Thunder forums who go digging for any information you can get, we have a pretty good idea of what's being added, with 2 of these vehicles confirmed in their own dev blog so far, and the rest soon to come. In fact, some more might be out by the time you lads see this video. So what we're going to do is go through each of these vehicles in order, talk a wee bit about them and what they're likely to be like in game, and we're starting at the top with the I-180, which is an experimental Soviet pre-war fighter designed to replace the I-16 Ishak. The aircraft was only built in very limited numbers due to issues with the prototypes, including many crashes, and the project was cancelled before any saw active service. However, before the cancellation in 1940, the I-180S was created, and this is the variant we're going to see in game, I believe. The aircraft featured numerous improvements over its predecessor, the I-16, most notably the much more powerful radial engine, which could get the aircraft up to 585 km per hour at high altitudes. The aircraft was built to be an interceptor, and so while it'll be nice and fast, I suspect that, like the I-185 we have in the tech tree, which was actually produced in only a third the numbers this aircraft was, this wouldn't exactly be a turn fighter. Cancelled in favour of the Lag 3 fighter, the I-180 will probably sit at 2.7 to maybe 3.0, given its relatively poor armament of only 2 Berezin 12.7mm machine guns and 2 7.62mm Shakash guns. This should be a nice competitor to the P-40 Warhawk and F-4F Wildcat, and I hope this thing has the strong flaps the I-185 has, because if it does, it's going to be very nice for some epic dogfights. Next up, another Soviet, this time the Project 122 BIS or Kronstadt class subchaser. This is a relatively large quote-unquote boat, not nearly big enough to be considered a destroyer, but larger than the American LCS-L3, which is what I'm going to be comparing this ship against. The Project 122 BIS was an early post-World War II subchaser that was built in relatively large numbers and exported throughout the Eastern Bloc, serving with multiple nations all throughout the Cold War. With a displacement of around 300 tons and a length of just over 170 feet, this vessel is a wee bit bigger than the US Navy LCS-L3, and at around 20 knots, it's faster too, although not nearly as fast as the Asheville or, say, German Type 143 Albatros. I might be incorrect here, I'm not very good with naval designations, but I believe this is what would be known today as a corvette or possibly a small frigate. I'm sure if Screezilla's watching, he'll be able to tell you. Shout out to the lizard himself. The armament of this ship consists of one 85mm main gun and two 37mm, as well as AA machine guns, mortars, depth charges, rocket launchers and mines, but no torpedoes. The ship also has no armour at all, with only 8mm around the conning tower, not even enough to stop a 50 cal. Make no mistake, this thing will not be a competitor to the Asheville or Type 143 Albatros, but given its large main gun and its decent speed for a vessel of this type, it should be a decent 3.7 ship. Here's hoping though that the introduction of this ship is a nod towards its namesake, the Kronstadt class battle cruiser, because Who doesn't want to see some 15-inch guns in War Thunder Naval Forces? Third on the list is the Panzer... oh god, here we go. Selbstfahrerfette. Selbstfahrerfette. Panzer SFL 4C. This is a relatively, how can I put this, a filler vehicle in my opinion. It's an extremely boxy, open-topped German tank destroyer with an 88mm gun, which you'll know well if you've played World of Tanks, where the thing is famed for looking like a toaster, and honestly, I can see why. I'm not sure much about the statistics of this vehicle, whether or not its armour will be penned by 50 cals, but the gun it carries is the 74 calibers long Flak 41 cannon, which is so far unseen in game. The closest thing being the Flak 37 cannon on the Zugkraftwagen, otherwise known as the Fuckbus, which was the direct predecessor of this gun. So this isn't the insanely powerful Pak 43 seen on the King Tiger and many other late World War II German tanks and tank destroyers, but it should be decently powerful for a battle rating in the neighbourhood of 5.0, maybe even lower, but I hope the thing is fast enough that it doesn't end up at 4.0, because that 4.0 German lineup is around 15 vehicles strong and definitely doesn't need to get any stronger. Another ship, this time the HMS Tiger, another ship with a battlecruiser namesake actually, but there's no way we're getting the World War I battlecruiser with 13.5-inch guns. No, this will be a light cruiser that will likely sit at 5.0 alongside the HMS Enterprise. It's around the same length as the Enterprise, a wee bit heavier and faster too, and she carries only 4 6-inch guns in 2 dual mount turrets. Alongside this she carries 6 3-inch guns, meaning that she'll have some pretty low firepower compared to something like the USS Trenton or KMS Emden. Here's the interesting thing though. Not only is this another ship like the Soviet Kronstadt class subchaser with a battlecruiser namesake, but this ship was converted in the late 1960s to early 70s to carry 2 Seacat anti-ship missile launchers, each with 4 missiles, as well as 2 Westland Wessex helicopters, license-produced variants of the H-34 Choctaw, which we have in-game already in the French tree, and the US version has been found in the game files. Now, Naval Forces is kinda dead right now, but I feel like modern ships with surface-to-surface missiles and especially naval helicopters, which could also pave the way for submarines. Yeah, I'd like to see all of that. So hopefully the introduction of both the Kronstadt and Tiger is Gaijin's subtle way of telling us that Naval Forces will see bigger capital ships and more modern naval combat in the near future, which I hope might breathe some life back into the game mode. Next up, Germany's Ju-388J, the other vehicle out of the 6 with its own dev blog right now. This is a late war development of the Ju-88, which of course in game we also have the Ju-288 in the end, but the Ju-388 was built in response to the American B-29 Superfortress, as it would have been the only aircraft in Luftwaffe service capable of intercepting the damn things at their altitude. Multiple variants of the Ju-388 were produced, and this one, the Ju-388J, being a super high altitude fighter interceptor fitted with radar and the rare Schrage Music cannons, which I'm pretty sure that we only see on one aircraft in game right now, that being the Donya 217N1. So lads, if you don't know what these are, which since they're so rare and pretty much useless in game anyway, you'll be forgiven for not knowing, but these are fixed 20mm cannons that fire upwards out of the fuselage of the aircraft to hit the underside of enemy bombers, and they were mainly created to abuse the weak zone of the British bombers. Hence why they were fitted to radar-equipped bomber interceptors, as British bombers commonly participated in nighttime raids. These two 20mm complement the main armament of the aircraft, which consists of another two 20mm and two 30mm Mk108s in the nose. Unfortunately, as an interceptor, this aircraft cannot carry the bomb load of its other variants, but the decent high-altitude performance, 620 kph at over 30,000 feet, this thing will be a good heavy fighter and should sit at a battle rating somewhere above 5.0. IRL, the Ju-388J never ended up seeing B-29s, but it certainly might in War Thunder, particularly in simulator battles, where the radar will be doubly helpful. The last vehicle on the list, and I'm sure the most exciting for most people watching this video, is the Israeli Merkava main battle tank. That's right, a vehicle completely unaffiliated with any of the nations currently seen in game is coming to War Thunder anyway. This is believed to be the Mark II variant of the Merkava, functionally the same as the Mark I, at least to us, with spaced armour and a 105mm main gun, which, surprise surprise, it's the British L7. More accurately, it's the American M68, but unlike most other NATO guns at the time, this one is able to fire full-bore ATGMs out of the gun, which should make this thing quite interesting depending on where it's placed. The tank, like I said before, has spaced armour, not the composite armour of the later Mark III and Mark IV Merkava tanks currently fielded by the IDF, Those tanks also had the 120mm L44 gun, but this tank had a top speed of only 50 kph on road due to its relatively low power to weight ratio of, I believe, 14.5 horsepower per ton on this variant, correct me if I'm wrong. The Merkava was originally designed to replace the aging Centurion-based Shot Kal and Patton-based Magash tanks, and was fielded extensively throughout the 1980s before the composite armoured and L44 armed Merkava Mark III replaced it as of 1989. The interesting design of this tank prioritises crew protection, with the turret sitting far towards the back of the hull and the engine sitting in the front, hopefully eating most incoming rounds. However, this does mean that the tank probably won't have good gun depression. Alongside the ATGM, I suspect this vehicle will fire the M111 APFSD shell currently seen in-game on the Shot Kal Dalette, and if so, I can see this tank sitting at a BR of 8.7, alongside the Leopard A1A1 in the 120mm prototype, the T55 AM1 and the Japanese Type 74s. This is a tank that many players have asked for quite a while now, and most likely will sit in the American tech tree, our 4th Israeli vehicle in War Thunder. Now, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this tank coming into the game. I mean, I love new vehicles, don't get me wrong, but considering that this tank isn't like the Votor, Shot Kal or Magash, but a completely domestic design, yeah, it feels a bit weird. But then again, we've got the Romanian IAR-81 in the Italian tech tree because reasons. Most people's excuse for this tank's being added into the American tree, even though it's not really related to any American tank, is that it replaced the older US-based Magash tanks, and given this, I hope this means that in future the Oliphant Mark II might come to the British tree for a similar event, as this tank was designed to replace the British Centurion-based tanks fielded by South Africa. With its survivability, high-powered gun and ATGM launching capabilities, the Mark II Merkava should be a great new addition to high tier, and certainly a highly anticipated one that I can see being played a lot, even though it probably won't get premium status. Well lads, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed, and that if you did, you leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell, join the 360 squad, come follow me at all the social media links in the video description. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on all of these vehicles in the comment section below. Tell me, which one or ones are you going for and why? Make sure to come follow me on Twitch, I might be live when you lads see this video, and come check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel further. Anyway lads, always remember, keep your bagpipes close at hand, keep your kilt on, and I shall see you in the next video. I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. The Bretlander, Seagull Nuts, DA261, Latvian Wolf, Gisli Arson and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.